Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3694BN. Today's date is July 26, 2025, and the title of the episode is Deep State Blocking Nominees, Countermeasures, Epstein Client Lists Exists, Plan Within a Plan. Let's talk about protecting our wealth. You probably think your 401k is safe, that it's growing, that'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risks onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, uncertainty you can't control. Until now, Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect their future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold. Talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged gold IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit x22gold.com to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. That's x22gold.com. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone and into something real. And here's a bonus offer. Get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at x22gold.com, and they'll send you 2 5-ounce Silver America the Beautiful coins free. That is x22gold.com, or click the link in the description. And remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, it looks like they are now trapped in everything that they have been trying to do. Actually, Trump is working with a plan that's within a plan. And really think about this. They kept pushing the Epstein files. Oh, we need the client list. Oh, we need to release this. And they were trying to trap Trump. But when you really look at this and you look at what Trump has done, he's allowed the Ds, he's allowed the fake news, he's allowed certain influencers to continually push the narrative of we need the Epstein information. And I do believe he did this on purpose, and he trapped them in all this because he needed them to push the call for Epstein. Because you have to remember, during Biden's time, during Obama's time, nobody even mentioned the Epstein client list. Nobody ever mentioned the Epstein information until Trump came into office. That's how you know it's a trap. And what's very interesting about all of this is that they want to produce their own list. And of course, you know what they're going to do. They're going to remove a lot of the names. They're going to say, here's the official list. And people are going to go, really? I thought there's a lot more people on here. And how come there's nobody really listed on here? So the question really is, does the Epstein client list really exist? Yes, it does. But it's not where everyone thinks it is. Think about Trump. He's been with these people for a very long time. He knows these individuals. He's talked to these individuals. I do believe that Trump basically has the list. He knows who visited Epstein Island. He knows what they have done. And you know who's going to corroborate all this? Ghislaine Maxwell. See, Trump is going to the source. And he's going to show people, here's the true information about what really happened with Epstein. This is how they did it. These are the people that are involved. These are the people that visited the island. Here's the list. Oh, it's not that list that the Ds want you to see. Here's the real information. It's backed up with grand jury information. And you can see that Trump, he has now trapped the deep state players in a plan within their plan, which is very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the Ds right now and the rhinos, they don't want Trump's people confirmed. Because think about it. Once Trump gets his people confirmed, he has control over almost everything. Now, yes, there's still certain individuals within the agencies and other places that probably have to be removed. But if he gets his people in place, he has quite a bit of control. And remember, this time around, Trump picked these people. It wasn't other organizations or rhinos or any of the other people that picked the people that he wanted. He vetted these people. He looked into it. He is the one who chose these people for a certain reason. And we can see that they've been holding up the confirmation process. And now, as summer continues on and we go into the month of August, we can see that the Speaker of the House, Johnson, he is now having the House take a recess. Now, of course, the deep state players, they wanted the Epstein files released. They wanted to stay and get this done. But Johnson says, no, we're taking a recess right now. We're not going to even look at this. At the same time, we have Ghislaine Maxwell being interviewed. We have Trump now putting out names from the list. Very, very interesting. And we have the Senate saying, no, we're going to stay in D.C. and we're going to work on the confirmations. Now, I do believe that Trump has a plan with Thune and Johnson, and I do believe they're going to try to use recess appointments. Now, again, we have Thomas Massie out there putting out the notion that there's going to be someone, a low-level senator or whatever, come in every 3 days and gavel the Senate into session so they're never on recess. This is the trick that they try to use. But I do believe Trump has countermeasures to counter all of this. And what they're planning to do, it's not going to work whatsoever. Because you have to remember, with the recess appointment, he can put people into place very, very quickly. Yes, there's a certain period of time that they stay in this position, but it's long enough to get what he needs done. And I do believe that Trump most likely has a plan with Johnson and Thune to get this done, even though the deep state players are going to try to block this with everything that they have, trying to keep the Senate in session. And I do believe that Trump has a couple of options that he can use, which I do believe he's already planning with Thune and Johnson. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. We'll be talking a lot more about all of this a little bit later. But first, let's start off with a very important subject, paper straws. And you can see that Trump, he has now introduced a rule canceling Biden's paper straw mandate. And Trump has complained about this from the very, very beginning. And actually, most of the people that I speak to, they hate paper straws. You use a straw, it basically breaks apart in your mouth. You start eating the paper. Some of the paper is toxic. They have certain chemicals within the paper, and it just completely and utterly falls apart. So now we're getting rid of all these paper straws. And this is a very, very important issue. Of course, I'm kidding. But I do believe that Trump has shut all of this down. And think about it. Why did they introduce paper straws? Who is making a lot of money from this? That's very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that we see is that just like every other Democrat and rhino, most of these individuals are criminals. They launder money. They use certain events. They create certain organizations to make you think that they're helping the situation. But really what they're doing is they're taking all the donations and they're just laundering the money. And it looks like Gavin Newsom and his wife are doing just that. Wall Street Apes put this out and said, at some point, Democrats just have to start being arrested. So Gavin Newsom and his wife actually created an organization just to steal some of the fire aid money. Like, how this man is still governor of California and not behind bars is absolutely mind-blowing. So I'm sure most of you have heard about the fire aid controversy. You know, where they had this contract to raise $100 million for the victims of the Palisades fires, and people started asking, hey, does anyone know where the money went? Because there's not a single person who was a victim of the Palisades fires who's seen a cent of this money. And through some investigative journalism, what we found is that they distributed the money in 2 rounds. Now, the first round just went to some NGO, like some of them have nothing whatsoever to do with the fire recovery, but they handed out $50 million apparently to all these corporations, and nobody did an effing thing. But then when we got to round 2, this got even murkier, because when you actually look at the names and who was given money under round 2, you saw this little organization called California Volunteers. Now, that organization is no longer listed as a recipient on the website. Funny how once the story broke, they took their name off the website. I mean, that doesn't look guilty at all. But California Volunteers is an organization that was recently created by Gavin Newsom and his wife, and they've never done anything before this. This organization was created strictly for the purpose of getting fire aid money. And they've not said what they plan to do with the money they got. They haven't even said how much of the money they received. No, all they did when people noticed that Gavin Newsom's organization was getting the money was take down their name and their organization from the website where the fire aid money went. So now not only did these fires happen because of Gavin Newsom, but he's also taking the money and laundering the money. Trump, he responded to all of this, and he said the following on Truth. Fire aid is a total disaster. Looks like another Democrat-inspired scam. $100 million is missing, was supposed to go to the Los Angeles fire victims. Fires that with proper management would have never happened. Governor Newsom refused to release billions of gallons of water from Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. What a difference it would have made. I have since overruled him, and it is now released. All federal housing permits have also been approved. The city is years late. Get the fire victims their approvals to rebuild and do it now. So yeah, basically they're using another disaster to launder money. This is what they did in Haiti. This is what they did with the fires in Maui. This is what they did with the fires in California. So when you start to see all these different organizations and they say, give the money, we're going to help the victims. None of this money ever goes to these victims. That's what we're starting to realize. It's all one gigantic scam. And of course, it plays on the heartstrings of people because you feel bad. You want to give. You want to help out in a certain way. And they know this. This is how they get you. And I think people are starting to wake up and the people are starting to realize what's really going on. Just like they're starting to realize that the governors and the mayors of all these different blue states and blue cities, they're the ones who caused the problems in all these areas. This is why the cities look the way they look. And when you go back a little bit in time, you could see the cities, they never used to look like this. The cities used to look absolutely fantastic. If you go back to the 50s and the 60s, think about it. Before that time, when you went to all these different cities, it was clean. People dressed up. People were able to walk down the streets. And as soon as the 70s hit, you know what happened? The city started to fall apart. That's when corruption started. That's when we got off the gold standard. And everything got worse and worse and worse as time went on. Now, Trump, he signed an executive order, and it's called Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. Election Wizard put this out and said the following. I have read President Trump's executive order on combating homelessness, and I support it fully. America's cities are in crisis. Sprawling homeless encampments, open drug use, sex offenses, assaults, thefts, and rising crime have turned our public spaces into zones of chaos. This would have shocked our nation's founders, who valued order and civic responsibility for over 180 years, from the colonial era to the mid-20th century. Vagrancy laws ensured public safety by setting clear boundaries for behavior. These laws weren't flawless, but they worked to maintain a just society where everyone could thrive. Then came the 60s. Radical Marxist policymakers, cloaking their agenda in compassion, dismantled these laws, calling them cruel or outdated. The result, a 60-year erosion of civic standards that has left our cities grappling with crime, disorder, and public health crisis. The 2023 HUD report confirms the damage. Homelessness spiked 12% since 2020, with cities like San Francisco and Seattle reporting huge surges in public intoxication, trespassing, and worse. Sidewalks littered with needles, storefronts turned into makeshift shelters, and parks rendered unusable aren't signs of empathy. They're proof of neglect. Let's talk about the real cruelty, letting severely mentally ill people roam our streets without help. Estimates suggest 25 to 33% of the homeless suffer from serious mental illness with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Allow them to live in delusion, exposed to violence, exploitation, or overdose isn't humane. It's immoral. Abandonment. Public drug use, defecation, aggressive panhandling, and sleeping in shopkeepers' doorways aren't victimless acts. They erode the quality of life, drive away investment, and make our cities less safe for everyone. True compassion demands action, not enabling destruction behavior. Trump's executive order on combating homelessness gets it right. It's not about punishing the homelessness. It's about restoring a framework where public spaces are safe and accessible. The order emphasizes enforcing existing laws, expanding mental health and addiction services, and treating homelessness as a solvable problem, not a permanent state. History backs this up. Vagrancy laws, when enforced sensibly, deterred disorder while encouraging people to seek help. Look at Tokyo or Singapore. They have strict public order standards paired with robust social services keep homelessness rates very, very low. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to reclaim what worked. Critics of the order resort to fear-mongering. He's rounding up the homelessness, or emotional blackmail. You hate the poor. That's not what this is about. These are lazy and tired tactics to dodge debate. Nobody's calling for forced institutionalization or criminalizing poverty. But we can't keep pretending open-air drug markets or people dying on street corners is compassionate. It's cruel to the homeless and the communities around them. We need solutions that balance empathy with accountability, shelters, treatment programs, and yes, enforcing laws against public disorder. Our founders built a nation of laws, not chaos. We can restore our cities as places of opportunity, not filthy encampments. Trump's plan is a step forward, combining enforcement with expanding care. It's time to move past the failed policies of the last 60 years. It's time to help the mentally ill, not abandon them. It's time to take back our streets. And that's absolutely true. And I think we've all experienced this as we walk down the cities of like New York or Los Angeles and Chicago and many other cities. You could see it. It's clear as day that they destroyed each and every one of these cities. And why do you think people moved out of the cities? Because they didn't want to deal with this. And those people that were left in the cities, they had to deal with this every single day. So they're the ones who hate the poor. They're the ones who hate the mentally ill. They're the ones who are causing the problems. Trump now, with the people's help, we're going to clean up the streets. And all these people that cause these problems, they're going to be voted out once and for all. And think about it. They brought in all these illegals. This is just adding to the problem. And this is why people reach the precipice and saying, enough is enough. We look around our city, we look around the area where we lived, and all we see is garbage. We see illegals on the streets, sleeping on the streets. The illegals are committing crimes. They're using drugs. And it's time to stop this. They're using our resources, and they're not even citizens of this country. This is why Trump won the election, because the people, they saw all of this. And this is why they're all for deporting all these people. This is why the percentage is so high, because the people experienced it. See, Trump told them. He said what Biden was going to do when Biden cheated in the election, not just him, but Obama and the rest. But, of course, no one's going to believe it unless you experience it. And now we have alligator Alcatraz. You can see the fake news. They're trying to make a really big deal about it. Oh, they're getting cold sandwiches. That's just horrible. Their bread wasn't toasted. Well, don't worry about it, because the people that are in alligator Alcatraz, the flights have started, and they're being deported out of this country so they can get their nice hot meal in their own country. And we could see that their entire argument is completely and utterly falling apart. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the deep state players, they pretty much stepped right into Trump's trap. They thought they had Trump. They thought, hey, listen, we're going to push the Epstein files. We're going to put so much pressure on. We're going to divide MAGA. We're going to make people, go against each other, because we know that Trump will not release this information. And if he does release the information, it's all fake. It's all manipulated. So we got him either way. Well, Trump, he basically had a plan within a plan. And he basically shut all this down. And Trump, yes, he's going to release information. He's going to release certain lists where there were people that went down to Epstein Island. And the list isn't going to be what the fake news and the deep state players have created. The list is the people that he knows that went down there. The list is going to be corroborated by Ghislaine Maxwell. That is the real list. The other garbage that everyone was pushing, it's fake. Remember, Trump wanted to tell the story. He wanted to use facts. He wanted to use grand jury information. This is what he's pushing right now. Why go to these files when you have the source? Ghislaine Maxwell, right-hand man, right-hand woman. She knew exactly what was going on. She orchestrated it all. Think about that for a second. And she has been granted limited immunity by the DOJ to be interviewed. Isn't that interesting? And she's naming names. The Skiff put this out and said, Ghislaine Maxwell drops 100 plus names linked to Jeffrey Epstein to Trump's DOJ as they met with Maxwell for the second day in a row. Which names did Maxwell drop, and are there any type of deals happening behind closed doors in exchange for this info to lock up high-level individuals? Trump was also asked questions today about Epstein and Maxwell and told the public and the media that they should focus on people like Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. That's interesting. He also talked about hedge fund guys and many other people. Then you have people like Kevin Spacey, Naomi Campbell, and Tyra Banks, who would allegedly find girls from model auditions for Epstein and Steve Harvey, Chris Tucker, Hillary Clinton, Diddy, and the hundreds of others who are involved, including the intelligence connections like the CIA, Mossad, and MI6. Maxwell was just Jeffrey's sidekick. She was in charge of locating and grooming the women and children to become sex slaves for the elite. Maybe even a handler that some say, especially with her father, being an actual super spy for the Mossad. Maxwell also took part in a lot of the abuse herself. Through the many interviews and testimonies, victims claimed she was very controlling and enjoyed the power and took much pleasure abusing the victims as she satisfied her cruel sexual desires and fantasies. One thing is definite. It's time for the whole truth to come out and hold every single one of those people accountable. The victims and the children deserve justice, and we won't stop until they get it. And think about it. She knew exactly what was going on. And Trump now, with his team, they're going to the source. Ghislaine Maxwell plus grand jury information plus what Trump knows, and I do believe he probably can back all of this up because he has spent time with these people. He knows the stories. He knows what they've done. Why do you think they're so afraid of him? Because he can actually expose it all, which he's doing. Election Wizard put this out and said, Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers have reportedly informed the DOJ that she is officially requesting a presidential pardon, possibly in exchange for providing information about the Epstein files. Now, Trump says, yes, I do have the power to pardon her, but it doesn't mean I'm going to. But again, think about what Trump is doing right now. He's using this as leverage against the deep state players. Their plan is completely and utterly falling apart. Isn't that interesting? Let's talk about our health. The science is in. A clinical trial found that just 10 grams of collagen a day for 8 weeks led to a roughly 20% increase in skin hydration and a 17% improvement in elasticity, while also visibly reducing wrinkle depth. If you want to help improve your skin health, it's clear that collagen is essential. This is why I use the Secret Magical Powder, and I'm obsessed with the results. Multi-collagen provides my skin with 5 types of premium collagen to help attack wrinkles from every angle. I'm seeing smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer lines, and more youthful glow. Plus, multi-collagen mixes smoothly with my morning coffee or tea. There's no clumping and zero added flavor. Do yourself a big favor and grab yourself a bag of ageless multi-collagen now for 51% off only at healthwithx22.com. Plus, by ordering today, you'll also receive free VIP life health and fitness coaching for life and a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping with your order. Once again, this offer is only available at healthwithx22.com. That's healthwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. Kimberly Auer put this out and said, I think we were told about all of this. D-Class Via's horse's mouth. And she's pointing to a couple of posts. 3425, July 12, 2019. Find out the people that went to that island. POTUS. Sometimes public awareness of certain events forces accountability. That was from 4848, October 11, 2022. Post 3506, July 25th, 2019. Cast of characters are known. And then post 3504, July 25th. It's a video game of Epstein Island. Down below it says, Anon's going to play the new Save the Children from video game when released. The cast of characters should be interesting. So I think we've known all the time that, yes, there's all these individuals that were involved in Epstein Island. It's no longer a conspiracy. It's very interesting when everyone used to bring it up that, Epstein, people went down to Epstein Island. They had sex with underage girls and boys. They all said it was a conspiracy. Then all of a sudden, when Trump gets into office, we have the D's and the fake news and everyone else saying, release the Epstein files. It's no longer a conspiracy. And Trump now, he is challenging the media. He's challenged them saying, listen, I'm giving you names now from the list. Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and many, many others. Ghislaine is going to back up these names, and she's already adding a lot more names. So is the list real? Yes. But guess what? It's not the list that everyone thinks that the FBI and the DOJ have. That's the fake list. Trump now is producing the real list. And you know who's been calling for it? The D's, the fake news, all these influencers. Think about what Trump just did. He trapped them in all this. You guys wanted to see this stuff, right? You're begging for it every day. Release it, release it. The D's. Oh, Trump is afraid to release it. No, I'm going to release it. Oh, yeah, you're going to see it. And basically, you're going to see it from the source. And you're going to see it from the jury trials. You're going to see it from it all. Think about that for a second. Think about how all this is playing out. Now, the other thing that's very interesting, and I do believe this will probably lead here into the U.S., but probably in a different way. We could see that the EU, the French, they're now pushing censorship. Libs of TikTok put this out and said, French authorities just classified X as an organized crime group. This is a blatant attempt to suppress and censor voices they disagree with and shut down free speech. This witch hunt is so obviously politically motivated, pure insanity. Now think about it. As people are named in Epstein, the Russian collusion things coming out, the overthrow of the United States government, remember, this feeds into different foreign governments with individuals within foreign government and leaders in foreign governments. So already in Europe, you can see that they're prepared and ready to censor everything. Now, here in this country, you just can't censor like that because, again, we have free speech. Remember, it's a contract with the government, and the government says we will not block free speech whatsoever. So it's going to be, and plus we have platforms that are not going to censor free speech. In Europe and other locations, they don't have the same constitution. So they can use hate speech as censoring speech. So if they can censor the speech over there, but they can't do it here, and we have individuals within Europe using VPNs, getting the information here in the U.S., how do they stop this information from getting out there? Maybe they shut down communications. We'll have to see how that plays out. Elon Musk says the purpose of the UK's controversial Online Safety Act is the suppression of the people. And that's exactly true. That's exactly what it is. And Trump, he is now in Scotland, and he has many meetings set up there. I think he's also going to see his property. But as soon as he landed, Trump said something very interesting about Europe. He said, you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. Stop this horrible invasion. Stop. This immigration is killing Europe. And that's exactly true. If Trump didn't stop it here in the United States, you wouldn't even recognize it. When you look at UK, when you look at France, when you look at Germany, you look at all these different locations, you can't even recognize these countries anymore. And if this continues, Europe will be destroyed. And he's letting the people in Europe know this. I think the people already realize this. And I do believe the people are going to rise up against these installed individuals. But when you look at the Democrats right now, with everything that they have done, and yes, that included the open borders, bringing all the illegals in here, destroying the economy, basically destroying our way of life, going after President Trump, overthrowing the United States election, the Russian collusion, the assassination attempt, the indictments. People are now catching on, and they're realizing that the D Party, they are against America. They're treasonous to this country, and their rating is dropping like a rock. Eric Doherty put this out and said, Democrats just got the lowest rating from American voters in 35 years. Jaw-dropping, nosedive. And when you look at it, they are down negative 30%. I mean, really think about this for a second. It's absolutely unbelievable. Now, the other thing that we could see is that just yesterday we talked about how Scavino and how everything is leading up to Obama because all eyes are on Obama. He's the one who's been conducting all of this. He is treasonous to this country. He's committed many, many crimes. And I do believe he's going to be brought to justice. And what's very interesting is that Obama, he's building his presidential library. ALX put this out. And it is rivaling Boston City Hall and the J. Edgar Hoover Building for the title of America's ugliest building. And it is a very, very ugly building. But this reminds me of something that's very, very interesting because I do believe everything is going to go back to Obama, and we're going to learn that he was never a citizen of this country. I know it's very difficult for people to understand this, but think about what Obama has done. He has made sure that no one has any access to any documents about his student life or anything else. And his parents, they were fluent in Russian. They were part of the CIA, and he was groomed to take over this country and to destroy it. Let's go back to post 341, December 13, 2017. Documents from the Obama administration have been transferred to the Barack Obama Presidential Library. You may send your request to the Obama Library. However, you should be aware that under the Presidential Records Act, presidential records remain closed to the public for 5 years after an administration has left office. Rated by the good guys per POTUS. Shockingly quiet. No leaks. Presidential libraries are put in place to retain control over self-incriminating CDOC releases, classified doc releases. Scam, review the law. What is the difference? R.E. Hussein's presidential library. Who controls? These people are really stupid. So normally, the National Archives and Records Administration, which operates the presidential library museums for every president from Herbert Hoover through George W. Bush, they won't be operating Obama's library. Think about that. Every other president has the National Archives and Records Administration operating the library. If you want something after 5 years, you can request it. Obama is not allowing the National Archives and Records Administration to operate his library. By the way, no other U.S. president has chosen to forego a traditional presidential library operated by the National Archives and Records Administration in favor of a fully digitized library model combined with privately operated presidential center, as Barack Obama has done. So think about this. Think about what he's doing. Now, the only person that comes close to this is Richard Nixon's presidential library, which was initially privately operated due to legal and political issues following Watergate, but was later integrated into the NARA system in 2007. So why did they do that with Nixon? Because I do believe they set him up, and they wanted to make sure that nobody got access to these records. Why would Obama do this? Why would he keep it private? Because he doesn't want this information brought out into the open. I mean, think about what Tulsi Gabbard is now releasing. And remember, Tulsi is not just releasing this on her own. This is in coordination with the DOJ, FBI, CIA, and everyone else. She's just the person that's releasing it. So this is unprecedented among U.S. presidents. And I do believe that Trump and the Patriots, they most likely have this information. Now, the other thing that we could see is that Trump, he is now changing everything the deep state has done. Remember, the deep state over time, they were trying to remove our rights. They were chipping away at the Constitution. And all the terrorists and the terror that you saw, that was created by the deep state players to force you into giving up your rights. They needed to scare you, because if they didn't scare you, you wouldn't give up your rights. They said, we'll keep you safe, but you just got to do what we tell you to do. This is how they tricked you. Trump right now is removing all of this. Why can he remove all of this? Because he's dismantling the deep state players, and they won't have the ability to push terror across the world. So the Trump administration has introduced the One-Stop Security OSS program through the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, which eliminates the need for double security screening for some international travelers with connecting flights in the U.S. Under this congressionally authorized pilot program, passengers departing from certain international airports such as London, Heathrow, undergo security screening only at their point of origin and are not required to be rescreened at U.S. airports during connections. So they are now putting this into place, and this is going to streamline travel, just like you don't have to remove your shoes. Slowly but surely, as Trump dismantles the deep state players, dismantles their funding, dismantles their ability to use state-funded terrorists, we will not need any of the things that they put into place. He's going to reverse it all. And it has already begun. This is how you know, and this is how you could tell that Trump has more and more leverage as we move forward. If you notice, he didn't do this in his first term. He can do this now because he has the leverage. He has the strength. The deep state players right now are struggling. And this is why he wants complete and utter total control. So he has now endorsed certain individuals for the midterms. And the 2026 Senate map features 35 seats, 22 held by Republicans, 13 by Democrats, with Republicans defending more seats overall. And he has endorsed Mike Rogers of Michigan, Michael Whatley, North Carolina, Ashley Moody, Florida, Mike Rounds, South Dakota, Roger Marshall, Kansas, Tom Cotton, Arkansas. And he's also endorsed individuals in the House. So basically, the U.S. House endorsement for 2026 midterm, all 435 House seats are up every 2 years, including 2026. Trump's endorsements so far focus on key battleground districts and incumbents. Lauren Boebert, Colorado, Zach Nunn, Iowa, Gabe Evans, Colorado, Derek Schmidt, Kansas, Tracy Mann, Kansas. So basically, we can see that Trump now is starting the endorsement process. And yes, there's going to be a list of many, many more people, just like we mentioned yesterday. And I do believe that these people that he's endorsing, I do believe in the end, all of these people are going to win. Because think about what people have seen. And I do believe he's doing this and preparing the narrative as we get closer and closer to the midterms, because we need complete and utter control of the House. We need complete and utter control of the Senate. And we need all of his nominees confirmed. Once all of that is done, he has all the strength. He has all the leverage. And the deep state players are in a very, very weak position. Now, the deep state players, they know this. And they're going to try to fight back with everything that they have. But think about what is going on with Obama, with all these people, the D's and everything else. He's creating the story so people understand how these people are treasonous against the country and how the D's have kept this lie up. And they still haven't backed down. How the fake news has kept this lie up. This is why he released the JFK files, the MLK files, the RFK files. He's telling you a story about the deep state players. Clandestine put this out and said the following. What was in the JFK files? A bunch of info about the CIA and how they conduct covert operations, regime change operations. What we are witnessing now, one giant continuous regime change operation against Trump. Trump released the JFK files for a reason. We have a playbook. We have proof that the CIA will release biological agents which would appear to be of natural origin. The CIA can and will release bioweapons and then obfuscate their involvement and make it appear natural as part of a regime change operation. Now take a look at COVID, deepest and darkest of rabbit holes. He's telling us the story of going back in time, how they have regime change every single time, and they use different methods. And one of the methods were Russian collusion, COVID, and Trump is starting with the Russian collusion. He will then move into the overthrow of the United States government in 2020, then move into 2024 on how they were trying to do this once again. And of course, as he was running for president, he'll actually show, look, this is why they indict me. This is why they try to assassinate me. It's all part of the same grand conspiracy. Paul Sperry put this out and said, acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe blocked House Intel Committee investigators from interviewing the FBI analysts who supported Brennan's fusion cell and his drafters of the ICA. At least 30 FBI employees associated with the dossier were gagged from speaking to staff. Ned Ryan said Brennan said his source could not be revealed because Putin might have him executed. However, reporters easily found Smolenkov living in a 6-bedroom home in Stanford, Virginia, listed in his and his wife's real names. Paul Sperry said, after providing James Comey and John Brennan a secondhand hearsay tip weekly supporting their central allegation that Putin helped Trump win the 2016 election, paid informant Oleg Smolenkov suddenly acquired this 6-bedroom, 8,100 square foot, $1 million estate on 3 acres in Stanford, Virginia. I think that tells you everything you need to know right there. And remember, Trump, he's leading this all up to the point where they overthrew the United States government. And yes, it's going to go beyond that, but people are going to be absolutely shocked. And you could see that they are now investigating the origins of COVID. Clandestine once again said, flashback, May 1st, 2025. DNI Gabbard confirms she is working with NIH, Bhattacharya and his HHS RFK Jr. to find the source of C-19. She brings up the U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine multiple times. In this grand conspiracy, investigations believes that this coup was a continuous act carried out through the entirety of the 2020 election, and the virus was created by U.S. funding via USAID project PREDICT. Then that would mean that the elements within the U.S. government created the virus that ultimately interfered in the 2020 election via mail ballots, and sabotage of Trump's presidency. Tulsi looking into C-19 while she is looking into Russiagate is not an accident. They are connected. Yes, I'm inferring that C-19 was a man-made biological weapon that was released intentionally to sabotage Trump's presidency, interfere in the election, and ultimately overthrow Trump and the United States government. I'm inferring that C-19 was part of the years-long regime change operation launched by Obama and his intelligence spooks. Hey, by the way, he was not president. I'm talking about Obama. It's quite literally the CIA playbook to use biological agents to sabotage governments as part of a regime change operation. See Operation Mongoose in JFK files. Russiagate is just the tip of the iceberg. Tulsi is looking into the entire treasonous conspiracy. She knows the entire thing is connected, and she knows where this trail ends. Yes, I'm inferring the same treasonous cabal that unleashed the Russia hoax also released C-19. And I've got the paper trail to prove it. USAID Project PREDICT, Metabiota, Echo Health Alliance, Ukraine, Hunter Biden, Nathan Wolf. Contracts begin 2014 post-Maidan coup. Ace in the back pocket. And yes, this is all connected. It's all part of the same grand conspiracy. General Flynn responded and said, the Barack Obama National Security Team, led by Obama himself, used the color revolution to overthrow Ukraine back in 2014 timeframe and simply applied it to the United States in late 2016 to attempt an overthrow of Trump. The COVID scam was part of it. And yes, it was. And the people are worried about statute of limitations. But once again, I don't believe that's going to apply because the grand conspiracy is continuous. Just Human put this out and said, under USC Section 371, any overt act in furtherance of conspiracy resets the statute of limitations for charging the offense. However, under RICO 18 U.S.C. Section 1961, a conspiracy is considered ongoing until its objectives are achieved or abandoned. The statute of limitations begins to run for an individual conspirator only when they affirmatively withdraw from the conspiracy, and this applies solely to that individual. The grand conspiracy against Trump remains ongoing as media and officials involved continue to employ the conspiracy's means and methods to achieve its objectives or to conceal their involvement. So let's say Obama's continuing it, the media is continuing it, the D's are continuing it, Brennan, Clapper, and the rest, they're all continuing it. Have they said, hey, we're out? Yes. No, they haven't. And right there, that should tell you everything you need to know. And what's very interesting is that everything the deep state players have done, it wasn't that Trump was just affected. The entire country was affected. Yes, he took all the slings and arrows. Yes, he was the one that was in the way. But people also felt the effect of all of this. Scott Adams explains, Obama's Russia hoax and Fine People lie ruined my life and divided America. He says, let me say that again. Those two hoaxes, Russia, 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 and the Fine People hoax, ruined my life because those are the hoaxes that allowed my entire social group to say, are you kidding me? You're backing Trump? Trump's a Russian puppet. And he said that neo-Nazis are fine people. So we can't even talk to you again. You're so bad that we can't invite you anywhere. We can't be your friend. And you should just F off. So this is very personal to me. And I think every single person went through this. Because, again, when that started, there was divisions between friends, family, spouses, and it destroyed the country. The country is now coming back together because people are starting to realize, but think about what they did. And think there's still people out there that are still fighting with spouses, relatives, friends. And it wasn't just Trump. Yes, he took a lot of the slings and arrows. He was in the way. He took the brunt of it, but the people felt it. And they felt it every single day. And this is why Trump wants to expose all of this. This is why he wants to take the power away from them. This is why he wants to return it to the people. This is why he wants accountability. He wants justice, because this is what the people want. And Trump, he needs to get his people confirmed. And you can see the deep state players, they're trying to stop him every step of the way. And what's very interesting is that Thomas Massie, and we mentioned this a day ago, he's trying to convince people that someone within the Senate is going to come every 3 days and gavel the Senate back into session so they're never on recess. So this way, Trump can't have his recess appointments. Karma Patriot put this out and said, Thomas Masshole. And this is what Massie put out. I see people are excited. Real Donald Trump can make a recess appointments to fill out his staff now that Congress has recess for August. Bad news. Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune plan to convene and adjourn every 4 or 5 days to block Trump from making those appointments. Karma Patriot said, you, Thomas Massie, are very intentionally misguiding your constituents because an important notable on the drama that you've been stirring amongst MAGA, the Senate has not entered a formal recess in decades, and you know that. They have always had someone show up every 3 days to gavel in and declare the Senate in session, because they know that according to the Constitution, after 10 days or more of recess, the president gains the power to make recess appointments without Senate confirmation, meaning Trump would have the authority to install all of his nominees through January 2027, and you would hate that, wouldn't you? Don't know if it will be recess appointments or a delayed August recess for the Senate, but it's pretty obvious that President Trump, Speaker Johnson, and Thune have a plan up their sleeves. John Thune holds the Trump card, an official Senate recess. So think about this for a second. Now, once again, if there is an official Senate recess, can someone in the Senate come and gavel in every 3 days? I think it is 3 days to put the Senate back into session. Well, yes. But again, they would have to have, I guess, permission from Thune, or maybe they could do this on their own. So during a Senate recess, a single senator can show up every 3 days to hold a pro forma session, effectively preventing the Senate from being in formal recess long enough for the president to make recess appointments, according to the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 5. Neither the House nor the Senate may adjourn for more than 3 days without the consent of the other chamber. To avoid a formal recess that would allow the president to make recess appointments under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 3, the Senate employs pro forma sessions, where a senator briefly gavels the session in and out, often lasting only a seconds or minutes with no legislative business conducted. Typically, a senator from a nearby state, often a low seniority, is assigned to preside over this brief session for convenience. The decision to hold pro forma sessions is generally made by the Senate leadership, often through unanimous consent, to maintain control over the legislative calendar and block executive actions like recess appointments. While any senator can technically preside, The process is coordinated by the Senate majority. So any senator can do this. Is this what they're planning to do? And think about it. The House is taking an official recess. The Senate, what happens if they don't, or they try to do it, but we have a senator pop in to gavel the Senate in session? Well, the president can force adjournment of Congress to create a recess. Under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, the president can adjourn both chambers of Congress in case of disagreement between them. Wouldn't this be a disagreement? Think about this. This could force a recess, overriding pro forma sessions. The House of Representatives, assuming alignment with the president, passes a resolution to adjourn for an extended period, weeks or months. The Senate refuses to consent, creating a disagreement by insisting on staying in session via pro forma to block appointments. The president then issues a proclamation adjourning both chambers to a date of their choosing, creating a recess during which appointments can be made. So, yes, I do believe the deep state players are trying to do something, but I do believe Trump just needs, about 10 days or so? And he'll be able to actually confirm all these people, and they will be set until 2027. And the deep state players will not be able to stop this. I do believe that if the Senate and the D's fight back and they don't want to vote on the confirmation of all his appointments, his nominees, I do believe Trump will take this to the next step. And it looks like Massey is already letting everyone know this is the plan to stop Trump, which means Johnson is in full recess. The Senate isn't. There's disagreements here. And Trump, he can step in. This is very, very interesting. And I do believe Thune and Johnson will be on Trump's side. And this is how Trump most likely will get this done. And we could see the deep state players, every time they try to do something, Trump always has a countermeasure in place to stop them. And I think as time goes on, Trump, the Patriots, they'll have more and more leverage. And every time the deep state, the D's try to do something, it's not going to work out. Actually, it's going to trap them in all this. And in the end, they will be destroyed. I think the D Party, the way we know it today, will cease to exist. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.